Hey folks, Nathan P. Butler here. Welcome back to Nate's favorite deck building games. And this time, this is our 7th episode, taking a look at various content for the Power Rangers deck building game. So in our previous episodes, we've taken a look at the two core sets. The original core set based on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and then the Zeo Stronger Than Before core set. And then we started looking at all these small expansions. We looked at Omega Forever, RPM, Get in Gear, Flying Higher, and then SPD to the Rescue. Now we look at Shattered Grid, and this is a bit of a different little expansion. It isn't really an expansion to be played by itself. The idea of Shattered Grid is that it kind of plays like what we've seen before with the DC deck building game and its multiverse storage box. There actually is a storage box for Power Rangers. That'll actually be our next video. But the storage box itself doesn't play a role here, whereas the concept of the multiverse game mode found in the DC deck building game multiverse box is essentially what is mirrored here for Power Rangers. It is a game mode that's going to allow you to essentially pull in different sets as you play. So you can basically use your entire Power Rangers deck building game collection as you play with Shattered Grid. It is based on a comic storyline in which basically the one Tommy in the multiverse who chose to stay evil becomes the so-called Lord Draken. And in his quest for more power, you have this massive sort of multiverse time and whatnot altering event that sort of resets much of the status quo for the Power Rangers universe. Not just for Mighty Morphin, but for other Power Rangers groups as well. This is actually the same storyline that was sort of abbreviated and updated to become the Battle for the Grid video game story mode. And here, it provides the backdrop for being able to use your entire collection in a multiverse-esque mode. So we're going to take a look at the expansion. And we're going to take a look at the bonus pack. Again, bonus packs for the small expansions typically are going to just include foil cards for the heroes and villains. That will change the next time we see one of these for the newest expansion as of the time that I'm recording this, called It's Morphin Time. That'll be 2 episodes from now, though, so for now, just remember, bonus packs are just foil cards. At least the first 5. So what does the expansion say about itself? Go beyond the grid. The sinister Lord Draken is conquering realities, defeating their Power Rangers, and stealing their powers in order to become a godlike being. Only an alliance of Rangers from across the multiverse can save reality from annihilation. The Shattered Grid expansion allows you to use all of your Power Rangers deck building game cards in an epic crossover experience. Use as many expansions as you have in this crossover event. So let's see how this comic storyline from Boom Studios gives us a really cool Power Rangers deck building game experience. As always, the rulebook is going to give you plenty of details, but I think you'll get a good gist of how it plays from this video. So the first thing that Shattered Grid gives us is some new heroes. 4 in this case, and as I've done in the previous videos, I've taken the foil versions for the bonus pack and put them down here on their non-Ranger side, and then their Ranger sides up here with the regular cards from the expansion. Though in this case, they're not actually called Rangers and Teenagers as usual. So Dr. K is called Teenager, but then Scientist. Jen Scotts, Lauren Shiba, and Trini Kwan are considered unmorphed in this form, not Teenager. But then when Jin becomes the Time Force Pink Ranger, or Lauren becomes the Super Samurai Red Ranger, they're referred to as Rangers, whereas Trini becomes the Dragon Armor Trini. That is something that we see within that comic storyline and within the video game. In fact, the main way you play as the Yellow Ranger from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in Battle for the Grid is actually not in regular Power Ranger form. It is instead in the Ranger armor within the Dragon Armor, pulled straight from the comic storyline. Then we have 4 new villains as well. Scheming side here in foil from the bonus pack, and yes, they are all just scheming. And then the empowered side up here from the regular expansion, again, just called empowered. No funky naming this time around. So we have Lord Draken, Ranger Slayer. You can probably guess who that is, but I'm not going to say it so as not to spoil anything in case you do read the comics, because they are awesome. Black Dragon, and Finster 5. As always, the new characters all have their signature items that all cost 6 shards. Also, as always, the different villains all have master cards. We have Zords for all of our new heroes. So for the Pink Time Force Ranger, we have Time Flyer 5. For the Red Super Samurai Ranger, we have the Bull Zord. For Trini with the Black Dragon arm, we have Mega Black Dragon. And then for Dr. K from RPM, We have Road Attack Zord, and a new Megazord, just one-sided this time. This is the Mega Megazord, which requires 4 Zords attached and can activate 5 Zords per turn. Once again, we get some new main deck cards, but these are going to work very differently in terms of how they integrate with anything else. So what I'm trying to do here is to show you some examples, but I tried to bury the cards that are more spoilerish if you're trying to eventually read the comics. So we have a total of 7 new equipment cards, 7 new maneuver cards, 10 new hero cards, and one of the really cool additions here is it brings in the Hyperforce Rangers. They are from a live play role-playing game series based on the Power Rangers RPG. So think Critical Role for Power Rangers. They appear within the comics. Then we have the villains, 10 more of those, and notice here an example of the Mastodon Sentry. As it mentioned in the description, one of the things that Draken is doing as he's getting different power coins from different multiverse locations is he's using them to empower his own forces. So by getting a Mastodon power coin, he's able to create Mastodon Sentries, which is actually one of the type of sentries that you can fight and even play as in the Battle for the Grid video game. Then we have, as usual, 4 new locations. So 7, 7, 10, 10, 4. But these will not be integrated with a core set. These will be shuffled together to form your primary grid, also known as the shattered grid, which on your table will be in place of just the regular grid you would see in any other game. So let's actually look at how this is going to be set up on your table, which will allow us to introduce one more incredibly important set of cards and the major gameplay dynamic of Shattered Grid. Okay, so I've had to lift this up a little bit to be able to see a little bit better. I apologize for a little bit of shadow down here, but this will make more sense as I sort of play things out here. So first off, this is not a standalone expansion, so you are going to need a Zord Bay either from the original core set or the Zeo set. Then you can use whichever stuns you want to use from either core set. They're identical except for art. And you can basically grab whatever the basic blaster type is that you want to use, or you can just grab them from various sets and shuffle them all together to make a true crossover, as they call it, and a layer from either of those core sets. This is your main deck made up of just those 38 new main deck cards from Shattered Grid. It gets filled out the same way it always does at the beginning of the game. 6 cards in the grid, no more than 2 of a given type. You also have your Zords that can be purchased once you have yours, and your Masters that can be purchased once you have yours. So aside from the fact that the main deck is pretty small, this is essentially kind of a standard setup here, right? And the first few turns will play like that. The craziness starts when at the end of any player's turn, either side has dropped to 25 health or below. At that point, the grid starts to shatter. So you have your sort of starting regular setup here. This is referred to, again, as I mentioned a moment ago, as either your primary grid or your shattered grid. Then you've got these cards here. There is one for each set thus far, and as we will see, future sets will include ones for those sets as well. So the core set, Zeo Stronger Than Before, Omega Forever, RPM Getting Gear, Flying Higher, SPD to the Rescue, and so on, and so on, and so on here, right? These are referred to as secondary grid cards, and they're very much like those randomizers in DC deck building games Multiverse Mode. You'll take out any ones for sets that you don't own, and then shuffle the ones for the sets you do own, and place them here below the Shattered Grid's main deck, giving yourself enough space for some stuff out to the side, and a row of cards here. Because as soon as one side or the other ends a turn with 25 health or less, you're going to flip over the Shattered Grid card. Notice here it's Omega Forever. What's going to happen is there's a new ongoing effect that's going to take effect, and you're going to grab all of the main deck cards for that set from your collection. So here I've pulled the main deck cards from Omega Forever. You're going to deal out a secondary grid, as it's called, of 6 cards again, following those same rules about no more than 2 of each type from that new main deck. Once you've dealt those cards, you're going to put your main deck over here on the other side of the Shattered Grid card, although typically you won't need it. That's just in the rare circumstance you'll need to do any refilling here, because the secondary grid will not refill automatically at the beginning of your turn like the primary grid does. And you're going to grab one random Master and one random Zord from that set, place them here on the end as well. They are now available to purchase right now, even if you haven't purchased your own yet. Likewise, all these cards in the secondary grid are also now available for purchase or for battling, essentially just as another grid. There will be some times that something refers to each grid, in which case it's both. Other times it'll say the grid, in which case you pick one or the other. But essentially what's going to happen is that as you play, this new ongoing effect is reshaping the game to a degree, and you can do stuff from either grid, and yes, at the end of your turn, the heroes or villains from both grids will attack. So in this case, if it's the hero player's turn, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 villains out there. They're going to take 4 damage if they don't clear some of those out. But as soon as all of the cards in a secondary grid are gone, because again, they do not refill at the beginning of your turn, you're going to put all the cards from that set away. You're going to discard the Shattered Grid card for that set, draw a new one, and set it up all over again using another set. And you're going to do this until you have gone through 5 different sets. And if you've gone through 5 and this main deck is empty, not just this emptying, but 5 of these and that's empty, then the game ends and you check to see who still has the most health to see who wins. Otherwise, it is a standard game of knocking down the other side to 0 health. But you can see how this creates some really cool possibilities, because you're basically swapping things in and out from your collection throughout the game relatively quickly here, so that all kinds of different mechanisms from the different sets can come into play. You can mix and match different eras and teams. You got access to different Zords that usually don't go together. It's just a fun new way to pull together your entire collection all at once. And if you have the storage box, it's even easier. Personally, as much as I like the individual sets by themselves, I really think this is probably my favorite way to play, because I love being able to pull it all together without having to do all kinds of crazy swapping in and out of cards and whatnot to create your initial main deck and all of that we've seen with the other expansions when they're handled on their own. I'm also very partial to the video game and the comics, so Shattered Grid is right up my alley. Since they are a big part of how the game plays differently, let's look at those ongoing abilities real quick. So for Omega Forever, it's when you buy or gain a card from this grid, right, the secondary grid, heal HP equal to its shard value. RPM, when you buy, gain, or battle a card from this grid, gain 2 RPM. Flying higher, players may perform 1 search during each of their turns on either main deck. SPD to the rescue, discard and replace all A Squad Rangers in this grid as they appear. Double the battle rewards of cards in this grid. Core set. When you buy or gain a card from this grid, you may attach it to a matching empty slot on your character. Zeo. Cards in this grid cost 1 less to buy. So, nice different effects, and in some cases, relatively leaning into that particular set's interesting new mechanisms. And there you have it, folks, a look at the Power Rangers deck building game expansion, Shattered Grid. Again, very different than the other expansions, but something that lets you finally bring your entire collection together. If you're wondering, what happens if I actually don't have 5 sets to use outside of this one? That's fine. Essentially, you just reuse them once you've used all of them to reach 5 secondary grids, assuming you're going to play to the point where you've run through 5 secondary grids and the main deck of the primary grid is empty. Hopefully, that won't be an issue, though, because hopefully you'll just drive the other side down to 0 and not have to worry about that anyway. But certainly, the more sets you have, the more variability and more use you'll get out of Shattered Grid. Next time, we take a detour before looking at the last small expansion to look at the storage box, which introduces Solo Mode.